I was born in space.
Well, welcome to Film Freaks Forever. I'm your host, Mark Jordan Legan.
And I'm your host, Fief Sutton.
And Fief and I have known each other forever.
We've known each other forever. We were best men at each other's weddings.
And we're still married to those women, aren't we?
And we're still married to those women.
Last time we checked.
And we were in college together.
Yes, and we bonded over our love of Bernard Herrmann scores and monster movies and everything, really.
Right.
And we have been just devouring good films, bad films, cheesy films, everything you can think of, and we get together pretty much every week.
Once a week, and watch whatever we can come up with. And the amazing thing is that for doing it for years and years and years and years, we still come up with stuff that we haven't seen and
or never even heard of. Yes,
right,
we have this endless supply of amazing films. And again, for those of you out there who do love cheesy, campy movies, that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about. We'll also talk about, classic films. We'll do stuff on film noir and crime noir that we love. But we also love, Italian sword and sandal movies.
Yeah, we love it all. We love what they call bad movies, although we don't think of them as bad movies.
No.
We just think of them as sort of odd, weird movies that are often far more interesting than the major studio releases.
Very, very much so. In fact, we like bad, quote-unquote, bad movies that are so, quote-unquote, bad, they're wildly entertaining.
Yeah.
And in fact, the three movies we're going to talk about today definitely fall into that category. Now, just very, very quickly, so you know, as I've said, I've known Fief forever. Fief is a two-time Emmy Award winner. He's a Peabody Award winner. He's a terrific film and TV writer. We've written a lot of stuff together and produced a lot of stuff together. He's also the author of a very successful crime novel series, and
Mark Legan is a NPR film historian and also a television writer who's written scads of shows over the years.
And NPR and Slate let me get on there and babble about films. And so we're really excited about our podcast here. And, because space movies. Let's talk about space movies.
Space movies.
And it's been great that Star Wars is kind of rejuvenated, and they've been making these recent ones, and they're successful. And even the Star Trek franchise has been rejuvenated also. And The Martian was a big hit. Guardians of the Galaxy takes place in space, and massive hit. It's interesting. The Last Jedi, which was just released this past Christmas, it grossed over $1.3 billion.
Right.
And The Force Awakens, which was released in 2015, grossed over $2 billion.
Right.
So Star Wars is kind of the granddaddy of this. But of course, if you want to go back to the days of the Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers serials.
And before that, you want to go back to the Fritz Lang Woman in the Moon series.
Absolutely.
But when Star Wars came out, when the first one came out, I remember when I saw it at the Uptown Theater in Washington, D.C., and I was just blown away by the opening shot. It was just a classic opening shot of that gigantic ship going over and over, and the ship kept going and going and going and going. It got laughs, because it was just a huge ship, and we just knew we were watching something that we'd never seen before. Because before that, science fiction movies had either been low-budget movies or they were, big budget movies, but they didn't quite get it right, like Logan's Run and all that. And this one seemed to, although it was not as big budget as they later got, it just seemed to get it right.
Yes.
The space opera quality of it,
I believe yesterday when we were talking about some of the stats, I believe this is correct. I think we looked it up in Star Wars, and it was released in 1977. I think the budget was $11 million.
Right.
And it made $775 million. And at the time, I think it saved Fox.
Yeah, and of course, it wasn't considered to be, it wasn't a high-profile movie.
Oh, no.
Nobody thought it was going to do that well. And before that, the big science fiction movies had been very, the most respected ones anyway had been very serious ones, 2001.
And then Marooned and Silent Running, very serious, very dry kind of.
Right, but this was a throwback to the Flash Gordon era with the people in
fun and big furry creatures, aliens,
and swinging on a rope over a chasm and fighting with lightsabers. And so there was immediately followed a slew of imitations of Star Wars.
Yes.
And most of them were not big budget. There was a few. There was, Battlestar Galactica on TV that was.
Right.
But immediately, Roger Corman and the Italians and all that started churning out imitations of Star Wars.
Yes. And among film nerds, and I mean that as a compliment, that term, these became known as space operas, and we love the subgenre of space operas, and that's just it. So as you were saying, because space movies are in the zeitgeist right now, here at Film Freaks Forever, we thought we'd shine a light on 3 of our favorite space operas. There are many, but we'll just narrow it down to these babies. But yes, as Fief said, these are movies that tried so hard to be Star Wars, but fail pretty badly. But by failing, they provide unbridled enjoyment.
And they all start, by the way, with a big ship flying overhead. They all do that same gag.
Yes.
They all do that same gag.
Yes.
And
well, we'll get to it when we get to it. But the third film that we're going to be talking about, their budget was so low, they just lifted shots of ships from the TV series Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
The original one.
Yes. All the space wars and the spaceships are from Battlestar Galactica.
And of the 3 we're going to talk about today, we're going to do it in chronological order. So our first film was released the very next year after the original Star Wars. Now, of course, and this was made in Italy. Now, the Italian producers, of course, insist that they were already writing and making this film even before they knew about the Star Wars.
Yes. There may be some truth to that.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Star Crash. And the director, Luigi Cozzi, was his name, and
he was a protege of Dario Argento,
yes.
Who was the great Italian maker of horror movies like Suspiria and Inferno and Deep Red.
Yes,
and he made this movie that was just the one thing about this movie that is stunning is the color. There's a new DVD out of it that's put out by I think
you have it there.
Yeah, I do. Put out by Shout, and it's a beautiful print, and
it is.
And for whatever reason, I don't know why, they decided to have the stars be all different colors.
Yes,
and it really is a gorgeous. Every shot of the stars is beautiful because they're red and orange and pink and blue, and it's much more interesting than just having them be star colored.
Exactly. And for those of you who might have been children in the 70s, it looks like the Light Bright.
Yes.
Who knew that space looked like that? But it's exactly what Phoebe was talking about. Space, once you get deep into space, it looks like your neighbor has left their Christmas lights up. But it's amazing. And as Phoebe said, this print, because when Phoebe and I first saw this, it was on a VHS. It was not a very good print. The quality was kind of... Some people have watched it, and the only available thing was in French. Yeah. And you hope that there were subtitles. And then luckily, FIFA and I were able to see this on a big movie screen, a Revival House, put it up. The place was packed, and people were cheering and just embracing the cheesiness and the campiness. The other amazing thing about this film, and again, Luigi Cozzi was the director, and this happens with a lot of these Italian directors. When the film was released in America, the credit says directed by Louis Coates. So they always kind of Americanize their names, but it is a Luigi Cozzi film, and he knew he didn't have the budget to do these amazing special effects or the ships and all that, but they really try, and the cast is pretty amazing.
The cast is very amazing. There's first of all, there's Marjo Gortner, who maybe people he's forgotten.
He's
but
kind of been forgotten.
He was a child preacher, a child Pentecostal preacher.
Yeah, he was ordained as a minister in the Pentecostal church at the age of 5.
And they did a great documentary about him, won an Oscar, as this little kid who was preaching and wildly pulling out.
And the movie is called Marjo, and as Fief said, it won the Academy Award for Best Feature Documentary in 1972. And by the way, to show how religious his parents were, his name Marjo, they took Mary and Joseph and combined them. So he could have been Joary too, I guess. But Marjo has a nice ring to it. But after it won the Academy Award, everyone in Hollywood at least wanted to meet him, and he had a feature film and television acting career for about 10 years.
And he was in Earthquake, and he was in...
He's actually in that really good TV film. Is it called Prayer for the Wildcats?
Pray for the Wildcats.
With Andy Griffith.
Yeah, with Andy Griffith, a great TV film.
Yes.
And, of course... Star Crash,
yes.
in which he was supposed to wear makeup and be an alien, but he refused to wear makeup, so he just got a blonde afro.
Yeah.
And by the way, a little sidebar: when Mark was in college, he had the same blonde
How
afro.
dare you?
So if you want to picture Mark here, you can just look at pictures of Marjo Gortner.
I've burned all of those photos. I did. Let's not talk about the forced perm I was given by my mom one day. Anyway. But aside from Marjo Gortner, the gorgeous Carolyn Monroe is the female lead. And how's this for a name? Take this, Princess Leia, Stella Star.
She's Stella Star.
And at one point, the movie, there's a copy of the script with the title page says, The Adventures of Stella Star. So she was going to be prominently featured. And probably the highlight for many teenage boys who saw this movie was the fact that Carol Monroe is wearing a leather, let's say, space bikini.
Throughout most of the entire film.
Yes.
Including scenes that were shot on Mount Etna, where it was like really freezing cold and the volcano. And she's wearing a bikini with a plastic bag over it.
Yeah, now halfway through, the Italian producers became concerned that they weren't going to be able to sell it to broadcast television if she's just running around in this skimpy leather bikini. So they cover her up in the second half. You will notice this. But there are just endless shots of her in leather boots and this space bikini, and it's interesting. She had just come from being a Bond girl in the Roger Moore Spy Who Loved Me.
Right.
She finished that film and came, and they were very happy to have her. And she's also really good in Golden Voyage of Sinbad.
Yes, in Golden Voyage of Sinbad, Ray Harryhausen film. And there is, by the way, also model animation in this film, although it's not very good model animation.
No. So she's in a great movie with stop motion, Golden Voyage of Sinbad, and they try a lot of stop motion in here, but they just didn't have the money or maybe the talent.
There's also Hamilton Camp, who does the voice of the robot, a kind of a folksy prospector robot.
Yeah, we'll hear a little bit of him,
Hamilton Camp had a brilliant career. He was a folk singer, Bob Camp and Gibson, right?
Yes.
He made a lot of folks.
He wrote Pride of Man, which was a very famous folk song covered by Quicksilver Messenger Service. A lot of people. He had an amazing career.
And then he became a character actor. He was a short little guy.
Yeah, he was like
and
5 foot tall.
Character actor. He was in a lot of sitcoms. He was in a lot of...
Peter Bogdanovich used him a lot. He's he's Warren Beatty's valet in Heaven Can Wait.
Right.
When he finally passed away, I think we looked it up, he had over 240 film and TV credits.
Yeah, he's one of the real legends of that era of film.
And then let's talk about the eye candy, really. The real eye candy. If you think Carolyn Monroe is hot, David Hasselhoff, the Hofster. This is only...
His second film.
His second film. His first film, which he made the year before, 1976, was called Revenge of the Cheerleaders, also known as Caught with Their Pants Down.
In which he played a character by the name of Boner.
Yes, that's how subtle, apparently, Revenge of the Cheerleaders is. David Hasselhoff is Boner in his first film, so he must have been thrilled to get this. And listen, a little side note. David Hasselhoff got food poisoning on the very first day on the set. I don't know whether it was just some bad chicken parm. I don't know what was going on. And you can see it in some of the scenes. He looks a little feverish, but he also looks gorgeous. He's prettier than Carolyn Monroe.
He has beautiful eyes. He has
eyeliner. He's wearing a little eyeliner. And he's got a big head of hair.
And he's got a big head of hair,
and
too.
Marjo has a big head of hair, and Carolyn Monroe has a lot of hair. We were thinking that the trailer sinks were probably getting backed up.
And then the Alec Guinness of this film,
yes,
the classy actor that they all needed to have in these films, is the wonderful Christopher Plummer.
Yes,
who just recently got an Oscar nomination for,
and 2 years before that or so won an Oscar. Christopher Plummer, and by the way, as Fief was saying, the credit on the screen reads, "And Christopher Plummer as the Emperor."
And by the way, I must say, one thing about Christopher Plummer, he gives a great performance. I mean, he gives a stunning performance. He didn't
instead of just phoning it in.
He did not phone it in. He just is giving it 100%, kind of subtly too.
Yes.
He isn't overdoing it. It's kind of like Alec Guinness did in Star Wars. He's there. He's giving it his all.
Yes, and when we did some research, we found some quotes from him where he basically was saying, "They shot it in Rome. They're going to pay me to go to Rome. I'll do it."
He said, "Oh my God, there are two things I can say about that film. One, give me Rome any day. I'll do a porno in Rome as long as I get to go to Rome." Getting to go to Rome is the greatest thing that happened in that. I think I was there for 3 days in Rome. It was all shot at once. And the girl, what was her name? Carolyn Monroe. She was something incredible to look at. That was a great pleasure, too. But beyond those things, I mean, how can you play the Emperor of the Universe? What a wonderful part to play.
And he plays it like King Lear.
Oh yeah.
I mean, as Steve said, he really gives it his all. It's a wonderful performance. And also, from doing some research, he insisted, he demanded $10,000 a day. They gave it to him. Apparently 2 days of filming, so he made $20,000, and we looked it up. That would be worth about $85,000 today. So that's not bad.
And a trip to Rome.
And you got to look at Carolyn Monroe all day.
And you got to shoot at Cinecittà Studios, which is the great studio.
Let's, because we're huge fans of film scores and film composers. This is another amazing credit that appears on the screen. The score is done by legendary Oscar-winning film composer John Barry.
Yeah. I don't know how they got him.
Because he was already successful. He'd already won an Oscar for Born Free.
He'd done all the Bond films.
Yes, and he went on to do Out of Africa, Dances with Wolves. I mean, it's amazing.
As a matter of fact, he kind of uses this score. I think he felt that this score was not really that well noticed.
Yes.
Because he kind of uses this score in Out of Africa.
Yes,
you listen to Out of Africa and listen to this score. They're similar. The films are not similar.
No. But Marjo does not wash Carolyn Monroe's hair seductively.
No. And
can you wash your hair in space?
I think you can.
All right. Well, that's a question to be answered by NASA.
And also, there's the wonderful character actor Joe Spinell, isn't it?
Yes, Joe Spinell is in both the Godfather movies as a hitman. He's in Rocky. He's the guy that Stallone's doing the shakedown work for. And, of course, he's in one of the greatest slasher films ever, Maniac, which he wrote also.
He wrote it. He wrote it. Carolyn Monroe's in that, too.
Yeah.
And
and Robert Tessier shows up in this film.
Yeah.
You guys will know. He was one of the most legendary stuntmen, but he was huge. He was bald. He's one of the big tough guys in the original Longest Yard, and he is the bare-knuckled street fighter who has the infamous battle with Charles Bronson in Hard Times. So it really does have this really interesting 70s cast. And, it's funny, though, whether it's the translation from the Italian to the English or whatever, this is the kind of movie, though, where there's lots of dialogue like, quick, to the ship. Look, they're attacking. All right, we won. We did it. And yet there's also amazing dialogue, cheesy, fun dialogue. In fact, why don't we give them a little taste?
Yes.
Shall we not? Here's a little bit of dialogue from Star Crash.
His Highness, the Emperor of the First Circle of the Universe.
I come to you
because my faithful robot, L, has told me that you are the only one who can save us. You know, you must be the best pilot in the whole galaxy. And you, Acton, the best navigator. Stella, our galaxy is split into two warring factions. Our own, and the one ruled by the evil Count Zarthan from the League of the Dark Worlds.
That was Christopher Plummer giving it his all.
Yes.
Very, very subtly, too.
Yes.
He was being introduced by Hamilton Camp as the robot.
Yeah, you heard
L.
a little bit of that, like, text.
Yeah.
So obviously, for some reason, obviously in the Italian versions and the other European versions, there was a Italian actor or a French actor doing this robot. But in the English cuts, Hamilton Camp is for some reason doing sort of kind of Texas accent.
Yeah, he's a Texan robot.
And he's kind of the comic relief robot.
Because the robot was always the comic relief. After Star Wars, the robot was always the comic relief in these things. By the way,
Yes.
the opening shot, there is some genuine science fiction cred in this movie, because the opening shot of the big ship that goes by, the ship is called the Murray Leinster, which is a very strange name. It's an odd name, but Murray Leinster or Murray Leinster, I'm not sure which, was a great science fiction writer of the Golden Age. He was up there with Robert Heinlein and Isaac Asimov.
Yes. Some people felt he was one of the very first ones to write about like a parallel universe.
And he coined the phrase "first contact."
Yes, which is amazing.
But it's the fact that they didn't call it the Asimov or the Heinlein or
Right.
later on the ship announcement is going, Major Bradbury, report to the
So there's little
sick bay.
tips of the cap to some great sci-fi giants.
But Bradbury is a more well-known writer. Murray Leinster is very obscure. You're picking very, very, very obscure fruit from the tree of science fiction.
Yes, absolutely. But anyway, that was wonderful. You got a good taste of kind of the dialogue and what Plummer's doing. Here's another clip where we're going to, I believe, Stella Starr is going to meet David Hasselhoff.
This is an energy shield mask, and the amount of energy is limited. My name is Simon. I'm the only survivor from the wreck of an Imperial mission.
Are you really? We've been searching for you all through these damned haunted stars.
Why?
The Emperor's orders were to find the Count's phantom planet and to destroy it.
So you know about the monsters?
Yes, I do.
Well, it's useless. We did not succeed in finding the planet either. And now there's no time left. The cavemen will be waiting for us.
You gotta love a space movie that has dialogue like "the cavemen will be waiting for us."
By the way, that's not the voice of Carolyn Monroe.
Yeah, this is an odd part about this film.
When they looped everything, as they always did the Italian movies, and I guess when they looped the dialogue, she wasn't available.
They had already wrapped the film, and it would have cost, because they had a low budget. It would have cost too much to fly Carolyn Monroe back to Italy to lay in her dialogue. And Marjo Gortner at the time was dating the actress Candy Clark, who some might remember. She was an Academy Award nominated actress for American Graffiti. She's terrific in that, and she had a nice career. They were dating at the time, and they ended up getting married, and it only lasted a year.
But it was a beautiful year.
Yeah, it was a fun, laugh-filled year where Candy Clark got to do dialogue like this. But yeah, so that is not Carolyn Monroe's voice, which is just another nice little oddity about movies like this.
Yes, and
but again, as you heard from that dialogue, we're filling you in. This movie has a little bit of everything. There is a cave with like troglodytes and cavemen.
And there's a whole scene that was shot literally on the volcano of Mount Etna. Beautiful, and it was freezing cold. And while they were shooting it, I just heard this. While they were shooting it, and they had it was a big tourist attraction, right? So a tour bus pulled up. And the people got out of it, and somehow or another they got into a big fist fight with the crew. And there was a bloody fist fight going on with the tour bus and the crew of Star Crash on top of Mount Etna, which I wish they'd filmed that. That would have been good.
That would have been amazing. Now, you know what, though? I believe that because we had also read that at one point during the making of Star Crash, there was a communist worker revolt, which led to the film's master copy being held for ransom by Italian activists.
Yes.
You know, you don't hear that on a J.J. Abrams set. That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, again, we love the dialogue and the acting in this film, and I think we should give another little taste.
Yeah. By the way, I like to credit the screenwriters because screenwriters don't get enough credit in anything. Obviously, it was written by Luigi Cozzi.
Yes.
But it was also written by Nat Waxberger, who...
Well, he was one of the producers.
He was one of the producers, and he doesn't have any other credits. So I don't know whether or not
he
really
was the money guy.
Yeah,
he might have pitched that line. All right, we won, we did it.
Right,
and then insisted on a co-writing screen.
Yeah, I think at the end of the movie when the giant when the torpedoes land on the ship and people jump out of them and start firing on the ship. They crash through the window of the ship, which is odd in space because everybody doesn't get sucked out. Yeah. But they crash there. I think he thought of that. I think
he might have thought of that, or he could have pitched the dialogue like, "What a terrible crash! No one could survive."
Yes. Do you want to do the most famous line of all from this? Do you want to go to that?
We will, but we also have to have this little moment between Carolyn Monroe and Marjoe Gortner.
Oh, that's
This is Marjoe's quote-unquote, spoiler alert, death scene.
Or does he die?
That's true.
He does.
He's an alien.
Yeah, he may just cross over to another plane and come back for the sequel that was never made.
That's true. That's true. So yes, here there's a nice little moment between Marjoe the alien and Stella Star.
I can't leave you. You're the only human-like friend I've ever had. I don't understand. You never die.
Stella, I've accomplished the mission.
Yes, but
Now others are coming. Even as I speak, they'll rescue you. Don't worry. I'll live forever. Now go. Go.
You can hear some of the beautiful John Barry
Isn't
score.
that a fantastic score? And
in there.
I think a lot of that is in Out of Africa later. But he was a great composer. He was a great composer.
And you get a little bit of Streetcar Named Desire. Stella.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Marjoe lives forever.
Yeah.
Wow. And then what FIFA was one of his favorite moments, and the favorite moment of anybody who sees this film.
I think one of the greatest lines in the history of film. Because there's a thing called a Deus ex machina.
Yes. Showing your college education.
Yes. That writers use. At the last minute, it means God from the machine, and it's just like you throw in some wild coincidence or some technology that you never knew existed to save the day at the end, and Christopher Plummer saves the day at the end with the following.
We must leave at once.
48 seconds left till the explosion. We've got to get out of here.
It's true, Father. The Counters mined the planet with nuclear charges. We're all about to die.
You know something, my boy? I wouldn't be emperor if I didn't have some powers at my command.
Imperial battleship! Halt! The flow of time!
Yes.
Yes.
Halt the flow of time.
I didn't know he could do that, but my God, if he can do that, he can do anything.
And by the way, when we saw this in a movie theater, people stood up and cheered that line.
It is one of the great lines. And Christopher Plummer delivers it beautifully.
He does. And, by the way, for some of you film buffs out there who might not really be putting it together, Christopher Plummer is Captain Von Trapp in Sound of Music. Let's just never forget that.
Yes.
And, Plummer, and by the way, Plummer was like a great stage actor. People who saw him do Iago said it was one of the greatest Iagos ever done on stage. He said the reason he loved The Sound of Music was for about 5 years after the release of that movie, he got the best tables in any restaurant when he would show up with no reservations. But sometimes he would maybe be in a bad mood during an interview, and he would refer to it as the sound of mucus.
Yes, yes.
But, and listen, obviously we love this campy, cheesy, wonderful film. Let's go out, shall we?
Let's send it out as the film is sent out.
As the film is sent out. Little camp and fun between the robot and the romantic leads, and then Mr. Plummer will play us out, so to speak.
Stella.
Simon.
Ah, Stella.
Simon.
Is that so?
Well, it's done. It's happened. The stars are clear. The planets shine. We've won. Oh, some dark force, no doubt, will show its face once more. The wheel will always turn. But for now, it's calm. And for a little time, at least, we can rest.
Wipe away a tear from the eye.
No wonder he's emperor.
He's just
But guess what? We're not going to rest. We're going to keep going.
We're going to keep
We're going
going.
to jump right into the next one.
Battle Beyond the Stars, 1980. Now, when Star Crash came out in America, it was released by Roger Corman.
Yes.
And perhaps off the success of that movie and Star Wars, of course, he decided to make his own space opera. And he decided, hey, I'll just use the plot of Magnificent Seven and put it in space.
Yeah, which isn't bad.
The plot of Seven Samurai, of course, the original of that tale, and set it in space. And by God, it's a pretty good movie.
It really is. And, Corman, once he liked you, whether you were a writer or a musician or an actor, he would try and use you as much as possible. And one of my favorite filmmakers, John Sayles. And, the guy he wrote and directed Lone Star and Matewan and 8 Men Out. But when he was starting out, Corman gave him his break, and John Sayles would write these quick little scripts for him.
He wrote Piranha, right?
He wrote Piranha. He wrote Lady in Red.
He wrote Alligator.
Yes, but Alligator I think was after this. But leading up to this, he had written Lady in Red and Piranha, which both made money for Corman.
And Corman was known for championing young filmmakers who later went on to, Martin Scorsese.
Yes, Ron Howard.
Francis Ford Coppola, Richard Matheson.
Yeah, and he gave Jack Nicholson work for years when nobody else would hire him. Yeah, it's
Joe
amazing.
Dante and Alan Arkish and all that. So they were all worked. He would work them to death when they were young and work them and pay them nothing. And then they'd go off and do great things, and he'd watch them proudly.
Yes, and they were always appreciative, and they always speak very kindly of Mr. Corman. Well, and we'll get into that because, again, there's some very interesting behind-the-scenes credits here. I guess the first one we should talk about, this guy was 26 years old, and he was hired only as a model maker for this film. Right. And as happened on a lot of Roger Corman films, Corman ended up firing the art director and the special effects supervisor, and he turned to this 26-year-old kid model maker and said, you're going to do all the effects. And okay. And it was James
Cameron, who this was his first job, and he does a terrific job. With very little money.
No, and Cameron has said this was his big break. He, of course, for those of you who might not put it together, Cameron went on to make Titanic and Aliens and Avatar, and
Terminator.
And this is the interesting thing. This film, Battle Beyond the Stars. It only had a $2 million budget, and it looks good.
It looks very, very good. And there's also a new DVD out of it on Shout Factory too. But it is it's a good script. It's
It is.
actually a good script.
Yeah, apparently Sayles had written a very long script, and then as they were shooting it, they're like, okay, we can't afford this scene, cut that. We can't afford this scene, cut that. So there are times maybe near the end where you go, well, wait a minute, that character came from... So there is that, but overall, it is, as Fief said, the pitch is Seven Samurai in space. It totally works. It has a very good cast.
Richard Thomas is the young callow leading man.
And of course, this is post John Boy Walton. He was so famous from that massively successful TV show.
John Saxon plays the evil bandit leader who's trying to destroy the planet.
Yes.
Robert Vaughn is one of the
Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Seven Samurai. He was in the original Magnificent
Yes,
Seven,
which
and then
is
he's
nice.
in this. George Peppard, Sybil Danning. Every character of the troop that he gathers to protect the planet, to protect his peaceful planet, has its own arc and its own death scene. It's infinitely better than the remake of Magnificent Seven that just came out with Denzel Washington.
Yeah, we're not fans.
It's in that one, who could you remember? I don't know. But in this one, everybody gets their own story and their own feeling, and it's just everything you want from the Seven Samurai.
And like Star Crash, who had this amazing film composer like John Barry, this is only the second credit for future Oscar winner James Horner. He had previously scored another Corman film called Humanoids for the Deep. But truly proving you have to start somewhere. But Horner would go on to do the scores for Apollo 13, Braveheart,
Titanic, of course.
Yes, Glory, Cocoon, and hey, for our animation film fans out there, James Horner also co-wrote the song from American Tail, Somewhere Out There. Fief will sing it later.
And of course, he also wrote "The Heart Will Go On" from Titanic.
Yes,
and he died tragically just I think last year.
Yes, he was into planes and piloting. He was piloting a small plane and it went down. But way to bring the room down.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but his last score, by the way, to bring it back around, was for the Denzel Washington remake of Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, now you've really brought the room down.
I know.
But wait, one interesting thing is the main spaceship in Battle Beyond the Stars has an AI talking device called Nell. And everybody, this is 1980, this is totally the precursor to Siri or Alexa.
Yes.
Richard Thomas talks to it all the time. It has a little sass.
It has a little bit of the comic relief in there, although it's well done.
Yes. But as Fief was saying, the plot is basically Seven Samurai. Richard Thomas is a young farm boy, and he tries to gather together a gang of mercenaries to save his planet from the evil John Saxon.
I am Sador of the Mount Lori. I have come with my forces to conquer you. If you resist, I will crush you. I possess a stellar converter, the most powerful weapon in the universe. You cannot resist me. I want your planet to be my colony. Your harvest comes in 7 risings of your red giant. I will return then, and you will accept me as your master. If you do not submit, your planet and all life on it will be burned to ash.
Boy, that's quite a State of the Union.
Yes, and that was John Saxon, who was a great character actor who appeared in an infinite number of movies. I suppose he's mostly known as the sheriff father in Nightmare on Elm Street, but he was...
He's, again, like 200 and something credits. We love him. We've seen so many favorite B movies. In fact, we'll probably do a podcast down the road of just this movie. He's in the 1979 film The Glove, where he's after somebody who's using like a cyborg metal glove to kill everybody.
And he's fortunately still with us, which is nice.
He is. And but the other thing he does in this movie like Fief said, he doesn't just phone it in. He really gives a good evil villain performance.
One of the people on the planet, the elder statesman, the blind elder statesman, is the great character actor Jeff Corey, who I was fortunate enough to know.
Yes.
Matter of fact, I had a birthday party at his house once, and Roger Corman was there, and it was great. Everybody, it was wonderful. But he looks a lot like he did in the Star Trek episode about the Cloud Miners. He goes a white beard.
Yes.
And he is an interesting story because he'd been blacklisted, and during that time he became a great acting teacher.
Yes,
and
Jack Nicholson says he would never have learned how to act if not for Jeff
Nicholson.
Corey.
He taught Roger Corman. He taught all those people, and then later in life when he started acting again, they were kind enough to cast him in roles.
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff
no.
like
In
that.
the
It was
original
great.
True Grit, he's Pepper.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy, and he's so good.
In Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, he's the sheriff.
Yeah, and Little Big Man.
Yeah. He's a great man and a great character actor.
Yeah, so he's in this film too. But again, so as we said, Richard Thomas is going around and trying to find different mercenaries. In this nice little short clip, he tries to convince Robert Vaughn to join him.
Who sent you?
I'm on a mission for the people of Akir. I'm hiring mercenaries. I was told that there would be many on Nascosto.
You're a little late. There's nothing left but me. And the lower forms.
What happened here?
The other planets in the galaxy formed a protective association. They raised an army and cleaned us out. We made them nervous.
Very sinister performance by Robert Vaughn, who was, of course, Napoleon Solo and The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yes.
and he was in the original Magnificent Seven. When I say the original Magnificent Seven, of course, that was a remake of The Seven Samurai.
Yes,
but
the John Sturges mid-'60s
yeah.
Magnificent Seven.
Robert Vaughn was a very good, very underrated actor who
terrific actor.
Had a high point and then didn't.
Yeah, that's showbiz. Now, the other prominent character actor in this, George Peppard. Now, of course, in the 60s, Peppard had quite the film career, Breakfast at Tiffany's, The Blue Max. At this point, he had really fallen on hard times. And, of course, he doesn't know that, and I think about 3 years later, he's going to get the A-Team, which most people know him from.
Right. As a matter of fact, in this performance, he's basically doing his character from the A-Team.
Yes. He's chewing on a cigar all the time. His character's literally called Cowboy.
Yeah.
But he's having fun.
Yeah.
And this kind of made us laugh. There's even an anti-smoking public service announcement in this flick. George Peppard is smoking on a spaceship.
Yes.
And someone brings it up to him.
Is that real smoke you're putting into your lungs?
Yep. And before you ask, it is the worst thing in the world for him.
Well, I don't think you should do it.
There you go, folks. Even in space, they're telling you, do not smoke, folks. Oh.
And I don't think it's a good idea to smoke on a spaceship anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And then, of course, at one point, legendary character actors George Peppard and Robert Vaughn meet, and you get dialogue like this.
Here comes somebody else. Who's that?
Do you want your name used?
My name is Gelt.
Where are you from, Gelt? I'm from Earth. Know where that is?
I was born in space.
Oh. Well, put in between us. I'll cover you.
Yes, he's a very mysterious man. He
I was born in space.
One of the things I like about this is the idea that if you put space or moon in front of a word,
yes.
it fits in the outer space. So it's a spaceship, and it's a space. There's a movie called Moon 02.
Yes.
In which they actually play Monopoly. because they're on the moon. So, of course, you wouldn't call it Monopoly.
We just
You'd call
recently
it-
saw that film
Yeah,
and really
yeah,
enjoyed it. It's
yeah,
very obscure.
yeah,
It stars
yeah.
James Olsen. But
Yeah.
But you're right. It was moon everything. Like,
Yeah,
hand
yeah.
me my moon boot. And,
Yeah. So another thing that they have in movies like this always is a little romance. There's a little bit of
Yes. Even among people from different galaxies.
People from different
Forget
galaxies.
the wrong side of the
and
tracks,
they
the
don't-
wrong side of the galaxy.
People don't know about the traditions of say, kissing and courtship and all that. And there's always a sort of a humorous line where two people of different sexes are trying to come together but they don't know quite how to do it.
Right. Just think of your junior prom.
Do you think you could show me the ropes?
Ropes?
Well, St. Exmond said, she explained how on her planet. What do you do here?
I don't understand.
For procreation, I mean.
Oh. Well, it's very simple, really. Males and females again.
Only two sexes? On Bilandic, it takes 3. And Kitzel, they
Oh,
have...
no, just 2. Just males and females, that's all.
That's a relief.
Well, maybe I could show you the ropes.
I've scanned information about mating. Does your species have kissing?
Oh, yes. We have that.
Aww. Like a good space rom-com.
Yeah, I know. I would think it would be very difficult if you had to have 3. I think, imagine.
Oh, who knows? Well, that's for space orgy.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
We'll get into that later. Now, the other great thing about these films being re-released and put out on Blu-ray or DVD is the extras sometimes are wonderful. And one of the nice things about the extra on the Battle Beyond the Stars DVD is they had the original radio spot. Now, they don't do this much anymore, but boy, when we were kids, you'd be driving around in your VW Beetle or your Ford Pinto, hoping that nobody backs into you. But the radios would play these spots for movies that were going to be opening that weekend. And usually they'd say at your nearby drive-in, and we couldn't wait.
You would just be so pumped for this. There would be such a way to get people into the theater.
So this is the actual 1980 radio spot for Battle Beyond the Stars.
Ruthless invaders, a defenseless planet, and a daring band of space adventurers fighting to save it. Battle Beyond the Stars. A lone youth escapes on a last-ditch mission that begins at the edge of the universe. A battle beyond time, beyond space. A battle beyond the stars. Starring Richard Thomas, George Papard, Robert Vaughn, John Saxon. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
Oh, boy.
Oh, God. I would just die to go to see the movies when that. And I love the voice of the announcer and all that.
Well, so, Star Crash is really entertaining and campy and fun. And Battle Beyond the Stars, we really enjoy it. It's a good space adventure. Yeah. And again, they had like $2 million. And as you watch it, too, you'll just see some really good work by James Cameron with all the special effects. And apparently he spray painted McDonald's plastic containers to make one of the space corridors. I mean, that's how inventive you had to be when you worked for Roger Corman.
And let's not forget Sybil Danning's costume, too, because she plays the Valkyrie. And,
yes, it's pretty stunning.
Wow.
But now the third one we're going to go to. Now, as we talked about, Star Wars was released in 1977. Star Crash came out in 78. Battle Beyond the Stars, 1980. 8 years later from that, 1988, is Space Mutiny.
Space Mutiny.
Now, this is for you hardcore B-movie bad fans. But you will enjoy it if you like that kind of stuff. But this is bottom of the barrel, folks.
This is the one where they used all the space footage is ripped off from Battlestar Galactica. I don't know how they even did that because it isn't made by the same studio.
Yeah, and they shot the movie entirely in South Africa. But in our opinion, this film is so bad that it is wildly entertaining. But oh boy, it stars Reb Brown. Now, for you fans of cheesy movies, he is the lead in Yor, The Hunter from the Future.
Which is quite a remarkable film.
It is, and that was made in 1983, so this was before that. And by the way, Yor, which we could probably do a whole podcast on, that was directed by Antonio Margheriti, who also made one of our favorite Italian crime films, Killer Fish. Remember that one with Lee Majors and Karen Black? Oh, boy.
And didn't he also do the Wild Wild Planet movies?
Yes.
There was a series of movies in the 60s, way before this, even before Star Wars, that were kind of a Star Trek type thing called the Gamma 1 organization in space. There was Wild Wild Planet and a few other movies.
Yeah.
I don't know, Green Slime, and they were really fun, fun movies.
But so Reb Brown had a little bit of street cred when it came to these kind of movies, and actually, I think in 1979 they made a TV film of Captain America, and Reb Brown was Captain America. But at this point, and
I think he had a cameo appearance in the new Captain America too.
But so by 1988, he's saying yes to Space Mutiny and going to South Africa. Now, he insisted, though, that if they cast him, they had to cast his wife. So, nothing against Sissy Corman, but Sissy Corman is his wife. She's a little long in the tooth for this part because she's supposed to be playing like the young 20-year-old daughter of one of the space leaders. And she don't look like she's in her 20s. But anyway, but let's talk about two of the other actors that are in Space Mutiny.
Well, there's of course Cameron Mitchell,
Yes.
who now this movie was done on Mystery Science Theater, and they made a lot of fun about him looking like Santa Claus.
Yeah, he has a big white beard.
White beard. But Cameron Mitchell was one of the great character actors of the post-war era.
Absolutely.
He starred on Broadway in Death of a Salesman.
He was in the original cast of Death of a Salesman. He originated the role of Happy, one of the sons, and he did it in the feature film.
He did it in the feature film. He did a lot of very good performances in movies.
And he had a hit show in the 60s.
High Chaparral.
High Chaparral. He was in 97 episodes of that. That thing ran from 67 to 71. But he has over 240 film and TV credits. And he is a good actor.
And
now,
he's a great actor. He was in the television play version of the Andersonville trial, which I loved when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I played the judge. He's in a very obscure, wonderful, weird, bad crime movie called
Dog Eat Dog.
Well, not even a bad crime movie, just a weird-ass movie.
We'll do a podcast just on that movie because a lot of people don't know that. With Jane Mansfield.
Jane Mansfield playing the ultimate femme fatale.
Crime heist film, and God, do we love that movie.
Yeah. But he's not doing what Christopher Plummer did in that. He's just kind of walking through it.
Yeah.
Spouting a bunch
I
of
don't blame him. He's
jargon,
basically wearing like a glittery shower curtain for his costume.
And spouting a bunch of technical jargon that supposedly means something but that doesn't mean anything. And he has to carry the film that way. Then there's the villain, who is
John Philip Law.
Who was of course, the angelic character from Barbarella.
Yes.
And
that's
a lot of...
He had a very promising career in the 60s. He's one of the leads in the really successful and well-done comedy, The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming. He was the handsome Russian sailor who falls in love with the American girl. He's in a terrific 1963 drama with Rod Steiger called The Sergeant, which if you guys haven't seen that, that's terrific. And he's in Danger Diabolique.
Yes, or Diabolic, or however I know how to pronounce that. But he's again also not so good in this movie.
Here it's 1988. He's got slicked back hair and bugged out eyes, and
he laughs a lot as the villain. You know, the villains always have a good sense of humor because they're always laughing, and he laughs in every scene.
And Now Fief did a very good version of that there, but don't you worry, you'll be able to hear an actual audio clip of John Philip Law sort of kind of doing his evil villain chuckle, but oh boy. And here's the other thing. I guess then they just grabbed people in South Africa. Hey, you ever been in a movie? You want to be in one now? the acting's not very good from the other supporting players. And we're going to give you a little taste right here of some of the great acting in Space Mutiny.
Headquarters.
Blake here. Give me Calgan.
He's right here. Go ahead.
Sir, I just saw something I thought you should know about.
Some strange women came on board with the Lancer. I'm sorry the information is so scanty, but I'll send you up more as I get it. Blake out.
Oh, Blake.
Some strange women came on board with the Lancer.
Yeah. Wow. You know what, though? I don't think we should keep our listeners waiting any longer. We promised some evil villain laughing. Let's hear some evil villain laughing.
They no longer have a choice. And now they have no alternative but to accept my generosity and alter course for Corona Borealis.
See, he's got a good sense of humor.
Well, so they how they say in space no one can hear you scream, but apparently according to this film, in space you can only hear a villain laugh.
Yes.
Over and over and over.
We should talk about the director a little bit because it's a very interesting story.
Yes.
This is a you do these things where you watch these movies and then you look up directors or you look up actors and you find
writers,
bizarre stories.
You go down the rabbit hole.
That's what we call it. This guy, he started out as a dancer.
Yeah, David Winters was in the original Broadway production of West Side Story,
right?
And then was lucky enough to be in the movie, the famous Robert Wise, 1961, maybe.
I don't know.
But the big feature film with Natalie Wood, West Side Story, and he's one of the main members of the Jets.
Right.
Everyone remembers him. He kind of has like that peroxide blonde hair, and he's a hell of a dancer.
Right. And he became a big choreographer.
A big choreographer.
And he did a lot of television choreography.
Yes. Well,
he did
like Cher. He choreographed every TV special Cher did. He choreographed a thing called the Raquel Welch special that we would do a whole podcast
a wonderful thing. And he also choreographed one of my favorite obscure, weird things, which is a musical version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde that was done for television starring Kirk Douglas.
Yes.
Now, nobody has this. I have it on Laserdisc. But it is, and the music was by the people who did Oliver.
I think Lionel Bart.
Yeah, Lionel Bart.
Yes.
They did, and
boy.
Donald Pleasance
that
is
opening
in it.
number, I wonder what oh my God.
Whatever it is, whatever Jekyll's doing, I'm sure it must be very, very good. Oh, man, I remember it so well. But it's never been shown since, and I thought I'd actually dreamed it until I finally found the
you showed
laser
it to me,
disc.
so we're the only two people.
It's a wonderful thing. Anyway, he choreographed that.
He choreographed the Donnie and Marie show.
And then he started
always worked.
And he started making low-budget movies.
Yes.
And directing them.
Yeah.
And he directed this. And then recently...
Apparently he wanted to take his name off of it, but that's neither here nor there. It says directed by David Winters.
Yeah.
And we want to do a podcast down the road just on David Winters and all the strange, weird stuff this guy has been involved in.
Recently done a movie kind of along the veins of
Step Up
or Breaking It.
Yeah, these dance films.
And it's called?
I don't remember. It has a very forgettable title, but we will do a whole thing on David Winters. But he did direct this. Now, apparently, once they showed up in South Africa and he kind of saw how bad the sets looked and how bad the script was, he claimed there was a family emergency and he went back home. This is according to the legend of this film. And like the assistant director took over and didn't know what he was doing. And it does look that way. It is very badly directed.
I think one of the things that we can't get across this on a podcast, but one of the things, there are a number of chases in this film.
Yes.
Between two golf carts with armor plating around them, or cardboard plating
gray
around.
Cardboard boxes around golf carts.
They're traveling at about 5 miles an hour.
Oh, come on, 7.
Okay, 7 miles an hour down this factory, a factory that.
As we were saying, in fact, most of the movie is just shot in this abandoned factory in South Africa. And we were joking that it looks like one of those factories that you always see in movies where apparently they just make other factories. There's just the catwalks and the scaffolding and the big wheel that a guy would turn, but the whole movie. So yeah,
and the only stunts that anybody knew how to do was to dive off the catwalk.
Yeah.
So everybody is shot and then dives off the catwalk. They do that 5 times.
2 guys just catapult over a railing, and they show it about 14 times.
But there are these scenes where these 2 golf carts are chasing one another, and if you got out and ran, you could catch up with it.
Oh yeah,
So there's no reason why.
Yeah.
But and it's supposed to be so exciting.
But it's not the Ben-Hur chariot races.
But it's written like that. I mean, they're banging into each other and doing it, and it's just the most pathetic thing I've ever seen.
And as we mentioned, by the way, Reb Brown insisted that they cast his wife. So we're going to play as one of the final clips here from Space Mutiny. Reb Brown and his wife, Sissy Corman, you always got to show right off the bat that these 2, they hate each other, they love each other. So let's just listen to this great dialogue and the sexual tension between them.
Next time, young lady, you stay out of the way.
Dad, I was there. The pilot chickened out. Otherwise, Spooner would be alive right now.
David Ryder, I want you to meet my daughter, Leah.
Professor never had a chance. There's nothing I could have done to prevent it.
Oh, so you left him to die?
Leah! Stop it!
He ejected and he's alive!
Listen, lady.
Doctor!
Doctor! I don't have to justify my actions to you, but since you're asking, that explosion cut the power. And there wasn't time to go over the auxiliary backup system. I had to eject. I had no other choice.
Can you imagine them running those lines in bed?
That dialogue, by the way, was written by Maria Dante, who wrote the screenplay, who only has one other credit, another David Winters film called Mission Kill, which we haven't seen.
But we will.
Yeah, we will. We will.
I wonder if there's a mission and somebody gets killed.
I imagine
well, who
there
knows?
is.
But I hope there's more dialogue like that.
I hope there is.
Listen,
yes,
lady,
yes.
doctor. Well, you're not a doctor of acting. Wow. That was really something. Now, apparently also, when they finally cut this Space Mutiny together and turned it into the producers,
it was way short.
Way short.
So they had to pad it and they padded it with a whole subplot with alien women dancing exotically.
There's endless scenes of females dancing around an orb.
Yeah, one of those orbs with
and it just looks like a bad Duran Duran music
video. One of those Tesla orbs. And they also have a nightclub scene.
Yes.
For some reason, well, we can play the music that accompany our talk.
Yeah, apparently in space they have this kind of music when you go to a space club.
Now, European science fiction movies somehow were obsessed with how people would dance in space. What nightclubs would be like in space. The movies that I mentioned before, the Wild Wild Planet, Gamma 1 movies, they always had them dancing in space. Moon Unit 2. They have a nightclub in space. There's some German films that have that. They were obsessed. Americans didn't. They never had a discotheque on the Enterprise.
No, they didn't.
But in European ones, it was one of the primary things they thought about. What will dancing be like? What will nightclubs be like in space?
Yeah, and unfortunately in Space Mutiny, because they had to pad the film, there's a long scene where Reb Brown's wife is gyrating while doing offensive things with a hula hoop.
With a hula hoop. It's very odd.
And they don't even try and make it look like a space hula hoop. It's just a plastic.
It's just a plastic hula hoop.
Probably brought to you by Whammo.
Yes. And evidently 80s dance music is popular in the future.
And she's dressed like an aerobics instructor.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, so this is our rundown of space operas that are out there for you folks. But
there are others, of course.
Oh, there are many. We could do a part 2 and a part 3. But we really love Star Crash. We're fans of Battle Beyond the Stars. And if you can take it, we do suggest Space Mutiny.
You really, really have to watch, if nothing else, at least the chase scenes with the 2 golf cars.
But we do suggest you get space drunk.
Or space high.
Yeah, whatever's your thing, man. But we hope you enjoyed us babbling about this. We are huge film nerds, and we want to share these with you. And we're so happy. We have to give a big thanks to the guys at Writer's Bone.
Yes,
Writer's Bone
yes.
is an amazing website and also an amazing podcast. But we have to give a huge thanks to Daniel Ford.
And Sean Toohey.
And also our engineer, our sound guy, Dan Radlauer, out of the kindness of his heart.
Gave us his studio.
Yes. And helped pull the audio clips. He pulled the audio clips, and we couldn't have done it without him. And also, we want to thank him for the music.
Yes.
But like with any podcast, you have to pay the bills.
Yes.
But we are thrilled. We actually are. Now, that's the other thing. Fief and I listen to a lot.
A lot of podcasts. There's a lot of times where people are talking about, I use this food thing all the time. I sleep on these beds. I love it. And they don't.
That's
but
right.
We do use this. We do use this product.
Absolutely. And so when we found out from Sean and Daniel that this was going to be the sponsor for Film Freaks Forever, we were so happy because not only do we use it, we've been using it for years.
And we use it for our livelihood.
Yes. So we want to give a big shout out to Final Draft for sponsoring Film Freaks Forever. Final Draft is the industry standard in screenwriting software. Used by such writers as James Cameron, J.J. Abrams, and Aaron Sorkin, Final Draft formats your screenplay so you can focus on what's important, writing your story. Visit www.finaldraft.com for more details.
I have used it for years. I've written actual movies on it. I've written movies that you've seen on it. I wrote The Fan on Final Draft.
Yes.
I wrote episodes of television shows that you haven't seen and shows that you have. Boston Legal wrote on Final Draft. I can't turn on my computer without Final Draft.
Yes.
It is my livelihood, my life's blood.
Yeah, so we're thrilled that they're a sponsor. Listen, folks, we hope you enjoyed this, and we hope you'll visit us again when we bring you more of Film Freaks Forever.
For Corona Borealis.